4,183. To the world, it looks like numbers. But in spirit, it is a code. A code that unlocks miracles when spoken before midnight. You may have begged, you may have struggled, you may have prayed for years. Tonight, I hand you the key. Speak this word, and watch the walls of lack fall flat. In this lesson, I will show you how one code, simple, short, but alive with power, can dissolve fear, open the way, and bring into form the good that belongs to you by divine right. You have been told life is a battle. I tell you, life is a game. And when you learn the rules, you do not beg, you declare, and you receive. You may have tried affirmations and grown weary when nothing appeared. You may have repeated words without fire, only to see the same troubles return. But tonight, I reveal why your words did not move mountains, and how to speak so heaven itself rushes to obey. The code I give you is not empty talk. It is law backed by spirit, and when you understand it, you will never speak in vain again. In this teaching, I will uncover the secret of the 4,183 code, why it was called forbidden, and how to use it under grace, in perfect ways. I will share with you the exact declaration to speak, the law it sets in motion, and the stories of those who have seen miracles follow it. We will expose the lies of fear, we will replace doubt with authority, and by the end, you will know how to command your midnight hour. Stay with me, for the last truth I will reveal may shock you, and it will set you free. Most people think numbers are lifeless. To them, they're marks on paper, things to add and subtract, tools for the bank or the classroom. But in spirit, every number carries vibration, and every vibration carries a message. What looks empty to the carnal mind is alive in the divine. This is why I tell you 4,183 is not random. It is a code. And when the tongue clothes it in sound, it moves forces unseen. Here's what most people miss. Your words are never idle. Every word you speak is a seed. Every sentence is a decree. The subconscious is a perfect servant. It does not argue, it does not reason, it does not sleep. It only receives what you impress upon it, and then it carries out the order in detail. That's why Jesus warned, "By thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned." He did not say, "By thy intentions." He did not say, "By thy hopes." He said, "By thy words." Because words are vibrations, and vibrations shape matter. Now, listen closely. Imagine a phonograph record, soft and sensitive. Every note, every breath of the singer, every cough in the background impressed upon that record. When the needle drops, it plays back exactly what was given, no more, no less. That's the subconscious. It doesn't choose the tune. It doesn't correct the mistakes. It simply repeats, faithfully, until you decide to smash the old record and cut a new one. And the only tool you hold in your hand to cut that record is your word. Do you see why the code matters? 4,183 is not powerful because the world declared it so. It is powerful because when spoken with faith, it gives the subconscious a new pattern, a fresh decree. It interrupts the cycle of fear. It replaces the joke of lack, the chant of worry, the confession of defeat with a divine imprint. And once impressed, the subconscious will play it back, over and over, until it becomes the shape of your affairs. I knew a woman once who loved to joke, "I wish I lived in a trunk. I'm so tired of managing my house." She laughed, her friends laughed, but her subconscious did not laugh. It recorded, and before long, the very house dissolved, and she found herself with nothing but a trunk. Do you see? The subconscious does not care if you meant it lightly. It obeys. So when you speak 4,183 with intention, you are reversing the careless words that bound you. You are setting a new pattern, a new command, and life has no choice but to echo it back. And maybe you're thinking, why 4,183? Why this string? Because spirit hides power in what looks simple, to confound the proud and lift up the faithful. The prophets spoke in numbers, in signs, in codes, so that the casual eye would pass over, but the hungry heart would find food. Numbers are symbols of order, and when you clothe them in voice, they become commands in the unseen. The world sees arithmetic, heaven hears decree. So I ask you now, what record have you been cutting? Have your words carved images of fear? Have your sentences played back poverty, illness, disappointment? If so, rejoice, for tonight you will smash the old disc. You will cut a new one, etched with the vibration of 4,183, etched with the rhythm of release and supply. And once it is spoken, the subconscious will obey, the unseen will align, and your outer world will have no choice but to match the inner decree. Remember this: life does not hand you conditions by chance. Life hands you the echo of your word. Speak 4,183 before midnight, and you will see how quickly the echo changes its tune. Here is something most people completely miss, and yet it is the very hinge on which the whole teaching swings: the hour of midnight. To the reasoning mind, midnight is nothing more than the turning of a clock, the passing of one day into another. But in spirit, midnight is the gate, the crossing, the very threshold between the old and the new. It is the hour when one record ends and another begins, when the subconscious stands open like soft wax, waiting for the seal of your word. That is why I tell you to speak before midnight, because if you go to bed carrying fear, if you close your eyes with doubt still ringing in your mind, the subconscious will hold that fear through the long hours of sleep and play it back as your reality. But if you command the hour, if you speak the code with faith before the day dies, then you send your word ahead into the unseen, and the new day is born carrying your decree like a crown. Think of how the Bible speaks of midnight. Paul and Silas, bound in prison, lifted their voices in praise at midnight, and the prison doors swung open, the chains fell, and every captive was loosed. That was not a story of chance, but a law in action. Midnight is the pivot point of power. It is the end of one captivity and the start of release. And so it is with you when the world sleeps, when reason grows quiet, when the body sinks into silence, the subconscious is uncovered. The guards are down. It receives without question. And if you dare to speak the code 4,183 at that threshold, the impression goes deeper than it could at any other hour. It is the law of divine timing. I knew a woman who came to me weary, carrying only $8 in the world. She was dejected, worn, ready to surrender. Yet she obeyed the inner voice, that still small whisper which told her to take a certain step, to follow a hunch, to go home though reason said to stay. And through that obedience, thousands of dollars came to her in a way she could never have reasoned at the very moment it was needed. Do you see? She obeyed the divine urge, and the gate opened. Midnight operates in the same way. It asks you to step beyond reason, to speak when all appearances are against you, to command when logic says it is too late. For in spirit, nothing is too late. Midnight is not an ending. It is the instant of new beginning. And let me press this deeper. Most people go to bed rehearsing their troubles. They whisper, "I am tired, I am broke, I am alone." And they fall asleep with these sentences etched across the sensitive plate of the subconscious. Then they wonder why they wake to the same chains, the same lack, the same disappointments. But if you will turn the tide, if you will speak 4,183 before midnight, you are changing the seed before it goes into the soil. You are commanding the harvest at the very moment of planting. That is why the code must be spoken at the threshold, for the soil of the subconscious is never more fertile than in that midnight hour. So when I tell you to speak this word, do not take it lightly, do not postpone, do not say, "Tomorrow I will begin," for midnight waits for no man. The day closes, and what you send into the dark will greet you in the light. Speak with authority, speak with joy, speak as one who knows, and watch how quickly the new morning obeys. For midnight is not the end of time. It is the opening of the secret door, the very swing of the hinge between captivity and freedom, between lack and plenty, between fear and faith. And if you speak 4,183 before that door closes, you will see how swiftly the unseen rushes to fulfill your decree. Here is the place where so many stumble, and it is the single reason why most prayers seem unanswered, why most affirmations ring hollow, why many souls cry out and yet see no change in their affairs. It is because they have given more power to fear than to faith. I say to you plainly, fear is not some harmless shadow. Fear is inverted faith. It is faith standing on its head. It is the belief in evil instead of good, the confession of failure instead of the declaration of victory, the dark agreement with lack instead of the radiant agreement with abundance. And what is faith but agreement with God? And what is fear but agreement with the enemy? When you tremble, when you picture disaster, when you rehearse the worst in your mind, you are prophesying against yourself, and your subconscious, ever faithful, ever obedient, takes your fear as law and works it out in detail. I knew a man once who feared a certain disease, so rare it was considered almost impossible to contract. Yet he studied it, read about it, pictured it, rehearsed it, and he filled his imagination with the dread of it until his body, obedient to his word, clothed itself in the very disease he feared, and he died from his own distorted vision. That is fear's harvest. On the other hand, I have seen those who clung to faith with iron tenacity, who, though every outward circumstance denied them, declared with boldness, "God is my supply, my health, my protection, and my deliverance." And I have watched doors swing open, chains fall away, healing break forth, money flow in, friends appear, and situations turn from impossible to effortless. That is faith's harvest. One law, two outcomes. Your choice determines which side you reap. Now perhaps you say, "But how can I keep from fearing? It rises in me before I know it." And I answer, fear will always come knocking, but you need not invite it in. Fear will whisper, but you need not echo it with your tongue. Faith is not the absence of fear, it is the substitution of truth in place of the lie. You cannot leave a vacuum in consciousness. If you cast out fear but do not fill that space with faith, 7 worse fears will come rushing back. The cure is to speak the word of truth until it overshadows the lie. Say with me, I now substitute faith for fear. I now align with divine law. I now expect only good, and good rushes to meet me. That is not daydreaming, that is command. And the subconscious, which does not argue, will record it and life will echo it. Think of it like tuning an instrument. Fear is the string drawn tight, shrill, discordant, vibrating to failure. Faith is the string tuned to harmony, resonant with heaven, vibrating to success. You may have lived for years strumming on fear, hearing only the song of lack and sickness, but the instant you strike the note of faith, the whole atmosphere shifts. Fear is a counterfeit faith, a twisted mirror. Do not waste time fighting shadows. Turn on the light. And what is the light but the bold word of truth spoken aloud, clothed in conviction? That is why the code 4183 carries such power, for when spoken with faith, it substitutes the divine vibration for the false one, it cancels the old record and etches the new. So I ask you now, as you sit in the quiet of your own thought, what are you agreeing with? Are you in covenant with fear, repeating its sentences, bowing to its pictures, bowing to the idol of lack and loss? Or are you in covenant with faith, agreeing with God, daring to say, though every appearance denies it, I declare my abundance, my health, my perfect expression, and by divine law it comes to pass? That decision is the fulcrum on which your whole demonstration swings. Do not treat it lightly. Choose faith, and fear dissolves like mist before the Sunday. Choose faith, and the code 4183 becomes not just numbers, but a key that turns the lock of the unseen and flings wide the gate of miracles. Now let me show you something that has saved many lives from shipwreck and has lifted countless souls out of disappointment into joy. It is the law of substitution. Most people are worn and weary because they have clung to the wrong picture. They have fixed their gaze upon something or someone not meant for them by divine right, and then, when it fails, they despair and cry out that God has denied them. But God denies no one. What really happened is that they were holding the wrong pattern, the counterfeit instead of the true design, and the law must substitute the right for the wrong, the gold for the dross, the diamond for the pebble. The subconscious is like soft clay. It will take any impress, whether crooked or straight, but the superconscious, the God mind within you, carries the divine design, the perfect blueprint. And when you dare to speak the word of substitution, when you say, if this thing is not mine by divine right, I cannot lose what belongs to me, I will receive its equivalent. Then you free the law to act, and the counterfeit is swept away, but the true comes rushing in. I remember a woman who begged me to speak the word that she might marry a certain man, whom we shall call A, B. She loved him deeply, she desired him passionately, and she was certain he was the only man who could ever make her happy. But I said to her, that is not the way of divine law. I cannot speak the word to bind another soul, for that is witchcraft. What I can do is speak the word for your right mate, the man chosen for you by divine selection, the one who belongs to you by perfect pattern. She was reluctant. She feared that this would mean losing AB, but I told her plainly, if AB is the right one, you cannot lose him, And if he is not, his equivalent will come swiftly. She agreed, though half-heartedly, and for a time she continued to see A, B. But strangely enough, she began to notice that he no longer seemed so wonderful. His words fell flat, his presence lost its charm, and her heart grew restless. Then suddenly another man appeared, a man who declared from the first moment that she was his ideal, who said all the things she had longed to hear from A, B, and never heard. She found herself loving him in return, and she married him with joy. The law of substitution had acted. The wrong picture was dissolved, the right one appeared, and there was no loss but only gain. Do you see how merciful the law is? It will not let you remain chained to the wrong door, though you may pound upon it till your knuckles bleed. It gently removes your grasp and leads you to the open door that swings wide with welcome. But most people fight the substitution. They cry, "I want this job, this person, this thing, and nothing else will do." And when it slips away, they sink into despair. Yet if they had spoken the word, "I let go of the wrong and call to me the right," the divine substitute, the perfect selection, they would have found joy springing up in the very place of loss. The law of substitution is also the law that turns curses into blessings, that transforms losses into opportunities, that changes dead ends into open paths. How many times have I seen someone lose a position they clung to with fear, only to be led to a far greater opportunity, one that suited them perfectly and paid them richly. Yet in the moment of loss they wept, not knowing that heaven had taken away the counterfeit to bring them the true. That is why I say to you, never hold a thing with clenched fists. Hold it lightly, bless it, and say, "If this is mine by divine right, it will stay. If it is not, something better will take its place, and you will never know loss again." So now, when you speak the code 4183, understand that it works because it substitutes the divine record for the false one. It erases the crooked line and draws the straight. It dissolves the shadow and reveals the substance. Do not fear the letting go. What belongs to you cannot be taken, and what is taken was never yours by law. Say with me now, "If this is not mine by divine right, I welcome the divine substitute, the equivalent that brings joy and not sorrow, abundance and not lack, freedom and not bondage." And when you speak it with faith, you will find the old pictures fading, the wrong doors closing, and in their place, the true door swinging open, the right picture shining, and the joy of divine law fulfilling itself without struggle, without delay, without mistake. That is the mercy of substitution in action, and it will never fail you. Now we come to the very heartbeat of this mystery, the living breath behind these four figures, 4183. Many will say, "But it is only a number. How can such a thing carry power?" And I answer you boldly. In spirit nothing is dead. All is alive, and everything carries vibration, and vibration is the language of creation. God spoke, and worlds formed. Sound went forth, and matter obeyed. The invisible always precedes the visible, and what you call a number is not merely arithmetic, but a rhythm, a tone, a chord. And when that chord is struck upon the unseen strings of the subconscious, it resounds through your affairs like music, drawing into order, release, and increase. Numbers are symbols, yes, but when breathed out by the tongue and clothed with faith, they become commands to the unseen, and the unseen obeys without question. Understand this. Your subconscious is a perfect phonograph. It records without judgment, it plays back without choice, and it knows no difference between a fearful chant and a faithful decree. If you fill it with words of defeat, with jokes of poverty, with whispers of sickness, it plays them back in your body, your home, your business, until your very days are scored with the music of your own careless tongue. But if you cut a new record, if you smash the old disc and carve into it the rhythm of 4183, spoken with conviction, then the subconscious will play back a new tune, one of freedom, one of harmony, one of supply. The law cannot resist vibration. What is impressed must be expressed. That is why I teach you to speak aloud, to clothe the vibration with sound, to give the word flesh and tone, so that the impression is deep and unmistakable. Think of a tuning fork. Strike it, and another fork across the room will hum an answer, though you never touched it. So it is with 4183. Speak it with faith, and the unseen hums to meet it. The law of vibration cannot fail. You do not need to see the current that carries your word. You do not need to trace the path it will travel. You only need to strike the chord. And when you do, people will appear, doors will open, checks will arrive, bodies will heal, not because you force them, but because you set the vibration and everything else tuned itself to match. I once declared with a student, I now smash and demolish every untrue record in my subconscious mind. They shall return to the dust heap of their native nothingness, for they came from my own vain imaginings. I now make my perfect records through the Christ within the records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. And she spoke it with such force that she herself trembled. Within days, her situation turned. Money appeared, friendships blossomed, her health lifted. Why? Because she cut a new record, and the old one could not play any longer. That is what 4183 does. It is a code of release, a rhythm of increase, a sound of order. Let me ask you now, what is the tune of your life? Is it the thin whine of fear, the heavy dirge of lack, the broken note of disappointment? Or will you dare to strike a new chord, to let your tongue sound the vibration of 4183 and command the orchestra of the unseen to play in harmony with your divine design? Remember, you are not asking, you are declaring. You are not begging, you are commanding. Life is not a beggar's bowl, it is a kingly game, and your word is the move that turns the board. So strike the chord, speak the code, and know that the vibration has gone forth. You may not see it in the moment, but already the strings of the unseen are quivering. Already the hidden doors are unlocking. Already the miracle is in motion. Such is the law of vibration, and such is the power of your spoken word. Here is where the whole game turns. And it is the very point at which most souls falter, because they want the harvest without preparing the ground. They want the miracle without making room for it. They want the answer, but will not lift a finger to set the stage. Yet the law is clear. Preparation is the proof of faith, and without faith it is impossible to please God, for faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. In the scriptures, the prophet Elisha told 3 kings stranded in the desert without water to dig ditches in the valley. There was no cloud in the sky, no sign of rain, no river near. Yet the command was, make this valley full of ditches. And as they dug, the ditches filled, not by rain, but by the hand of the Almighty. So it is with you. Your preparation, your digging, is your declaration that the unseen supply is already on its way. You may say, but how do I dig ditches in my life? I tell you this. Act as if the good you have declared is already here. Not with strain, not with foolish spending, not with anxious rushing, but with the calm certainty that what is yours by divine right cannot be withheld and must arrive on time. I once counseled a woman who desperately needed an apartment at a time when every newspaper declared there were none to be found. Her friends pitied her and said she would have to put her furniture in storage and live in a hotel. But she refused their pity and declared, Infinite Spirit opens the way for the right apartment for me. One with God is a majority. And when the thought tempted her to doubt, to hold back, to play small, she said, no, I will dig my ditches. She went out and bought blankets for the apartment she did not yet see. That simple act of preparation was her silent word of faith, and soon enough the right apartment appeared, and out of hundreds of applicants, it was given to her. The ditch was dug, and the supply rushed in to fill it. I tell you plainly, if you ask for success but prepare for failure, you will receive the very thing you prepared for. Many pray for prosperity and then hoard their pennies in fear. They pray for health and then plan what hospital they will go to when sickness comes. They pray for love but speak only of heartbreak. They dig ditches for failure and then wonder why the desert fills with dust instead of water. Do you see? The law does not mock you. It simply mirrors you. If you ask with your lips but prepare with your actions for the opposite, the subconscious obeys the stronger signal, and the stronger signal is always the action. So, if you desire a trip, buy the trunk, as one of my students once did, and before long he was on the ship sailing to his destination, financed in a way he could not have imagined. If you desire a home, set aside a place for it in your thought, and prepare in joy. If you desire abundance, bless the money you have, spend a portion of it in faith, and let the law of circulation work, knowing that as money goes out, money must return multiplied. Every act of faith is a ditch dug, and every ditch dug must be filled. Now let me ask you, what ditch can you dig tonight? Can you lay out the clothes you will wear in the position you have called in? Can you prepare the table for the guest of love you have spoken into being? Can you speak over the dollars in your purse and declare them seeds of plenty? Do not say, "When it comes, I will act." Act, and it will come. For faith without works is dead, and preparation is the living body of faith. Dig your ditch before midnight, and watch as the desert of lack fills with streams of supply, so abundant, so overflowing, that you will know it was never your action that brought it, but your faith that allowed the law to act. Now, beloved, I must take you even deeper, for it is not enough to dig new ditches of faith if the soil of your mind is still cluttered with the broken shards of the old. You cannot build a temple on a ruin unless first the rubble is cleared away. The subconscious is like a phonograph record, as I have told you before. It captures every tone, every whisper, every declaration, whether spoken in jest or in earnest, whether murmured in despair or shouted in triumph, and then it plays them back faithfully, again and again, until the music of your life becomes a tired refrain of your own careless speech. Some of you have been listening to the same record of defeat for years, a record scratched with phrases like, "I can't," "I'm afraid," "I'll never," "There's not enough." And every time it spins, you relive the same conditions, the same disappointments, the same lack. But tonight I tell you, you can smash the old record and command a new one to be cut. A woman once said to me, "I am sick and tired of managing this house. I wish I lived in a trunk." She laughed, her friends laughed, but the subconscious did not laugh. It recorded. And in due time, the house was gone, the comfort was gone, and she lived with nothing but a trunk. Another woman who had abundance at her fingertips continually joked about preparing for the poorhouse, and sure enough, the poorhouse prepared itself for her, for the subconscious has no sense of humor. Do you see why the scriptures warn us that death and life are in the power of the tongue? It is not poetry, it is law. The careless words you have sown have borne their bitter fruit, but the same law that bound you is the law that frees you. For every false record can be shattered by the higher word of truth, and the moment you speak with authority, the moment you declare, "I now smash and demolish every untrue record in my subconscious mind," and they return to the dust heap of their native nothingness, for they came from my own vain imaginings. The hammer of spirit falls, and the grooves of failure are broken forever. But you must not stop there. When the record of fear is smashed, a new one must be cut, for the subconscious will play something, and if you do not give it truth, it will replay the old lies. This is why you speak the substitution. I now make my perfect records through the Christ within, records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. Speak it with conviction, and you will feel the very atmosphere around you shift, for heaven itself records your decree. It is the law of replacement. You cannot simply erase, you must replace. Pull out the weeds, yes, but plant flowers in their place, or the weeds will return. Do not think this is difficult. It is as simple as deciding what music you want to play in your home. You would not keep a record that grates upon your ears, that fills your house with discord, yet some of you have allowed such records to play in your souls for years. Tonight is the night to break them. Imagine yourself holding those old discs marked poverty, illness, failure, fear, and see them shattering in your hands, reduced to dust that blows away in the wind. Then see yourself placing upon the turntable of your subconscious the new disc, polished and perfect, inscribed with 4,183, divine release, divine order, divine increase. Can you hear the difference? Can you feel the vibration? One is the dirge of defeat, the other is the song of victory. And I say to you, never again allow a careless word to cut its groove into your life. Guard your speech as you would guard a treasure chest. Do not jest with lack. Do not rehearse defeat. Do not say, "I can't," even in passing, for the subconscious knows no jest. Speak only that which you desire to see manifested. Say, "I am fearless, I am free, I am supplied, I am guided, I am loved." And every time you speak it, the grooves deepen, the record becomes clearer, and soon the music of your life will match the decree of your tongue. This is the smashing of old records, and it is the very act that clears the stage for the miracle of 4,183 to play its full symphony in your affairs. Now we rise higher, and I want you to stay with me, because this is where the reasoning mind begins to stumble. This is where appearances protest. This is where the carnal eye says, It cannot be. But I tell you, it is here, in the realm above appearances, that the true game of life is played. I call it the fourth dimension, the dimension of spirit, the realm of divine ideas, where everything already exists in perfect form, finished, complete, waiting only for your recognition and your decree to bring it into visibility. Most people live chained in the third dimension, measuring only by what they can see, hear, touch, and reason. They look at their bank account and say, I am poor. They look at their body and say, I am sick. They look at their circumstances and say, I am defeated. And so they remain, trapped in the prison of appearances, never realizing that above their head the storehouses of heaven stand full to overflowing, waiting for one word of faith to swing the doors open. When Jesus said, Lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest, he was speaking of this fourth dimension. He was saying, Stop looking at the barren ground at your feet, and see with the inner eye the abundance that already island. The reasoning mind says, the harvest is months away. The Christ mind says, the harvest is now. The reasoning mind says, you must wait for rain, for season, for chance. The Christ mind says, it is finished. Only speak the word and it shall appear. This is the difference between living under appearances and living under law. One binds you to cycles, delays, and probabilities. The other sets you free into timeless supply. I have watched men and women break free from the chains of appearances by daring to live in the fourth dimension. A man came to me once, desperate for $50,000 to save his business. The banks had refused him, his friends had turned him down, every door seemed shut. He said, it is too late. Tomorrow the time limit is up. But I told him, God does not need time, and he is never too late. Lift up your eyes from appearances. See with me the supply already given. Speak the word, and act as if it is already done. He obeyed, and though his train was late, though the hour was almost gone, when he walked into the bank, the loan was granted at once, and his business was saved. He moved from the third dimension of despair into the fourth dimension of faith, and the law responded with precision. Now perhaps you say, but how can I live in a world of spirit while my body walks in a world of matter? And I answer, you live in both already, though you may not know it. Your inner pictures are the seeds, your words are the water, your faith is the sunlight, and sooner or later, the garden outside must mirror the garden within. If the garden of your thought is choked with weeds of fear and complaint, do not be surprised when weeds spring up in your circumstances. But if you cultivate the fourth dimension, if you hold the picture of divine health when the body protests with pain, if you hold the vision of abundance when the purse is empty, if you declare peace when storms howl around you, then you are living in the realm where appearances are overruled by law, and appearances must yield, for they are shadows, and shadows cannot resist the light. I tell you this so you will understand why the code 4183 is not some charm or trick. It is the sound that shifts you from the third dimension to the fourth. It is the key that reminds the subconscious of the higher law, the rhythm that calls forth the already finished picture from the divine design. Speak it with faith, and you will find yourself less shaken by appearances. You will begin to walk through storms with calm, to face lack with composure, to hear the roar of fear and yet reply with steady conviction. I live in the fourth dimension where my good already is, and nothing can be added or taken away. This calm is not passivity, it is mastery. It is the serenity of one who knows the higher game is already won. So tonight, as midnight draws near, refuse to bow to appearances. Lift up your eyes, refuse the report of lack, refuse the verdict of fear. Speak the code and declare, I am not bound by what I see, I am governed by what I know. My good is finished in the fourth dimension, and I call it into form under grace, in perfect ways. And watch how swiftly the shadows scatter when the light of this truth floods in. For once you taste life in the fourth dimension, you will never again be satisfied to live chained to appearances. Now I must reveal to you the crowning secret of all manifestation, the fragrance that proves the flower is already in bloom, the note that tells you the song is finished in the unseen. It is joy, it is thanksgiving. Most people miss this, for they beg and they plead, they strain and they push, and even when they speak their affirmations, they do it with tight lips and anxious hearts, as though their words were coins tossed into a locked chest, hoping somehow the lid will open. But this is not the way of the law. The law responds to faith, and the proof of faith is joy. When you are truly convinced that your good is already yours by divine right, you cannot help but rejoice. Thanksgiving flows from you as naturally as breath, and joy becomes the atmosphere of your being. You do not wait for the thing to appear before you give thanks. You give thanks because you know it already is, and that very thanksgiving is the magnet that draws it swiftly into form. I once desired a rose tree. I did not ask in long prayers. I did not plead with heaven. I simply wished it for a moment and saw it in my mind's eye, pictured it being carried into my home. The next day, a friend brought me flowers. She had ordered lilies, but by a so-called mistake the florist sent a rose tree. Do you see the law? I had already given thanks for the tree, already rejoiced in the image of it, and therefore it had to appear. That so-called mistake was simply the law fulfilling my joy. Another woman came to me with only $2, desperate for prosperity. I said, "Bless this money, declare it your magic purse that can never be emptied, and see it bulging with bills, crammed, jammed, overflowing." She believed, she rejoiced, she gave thanks as though her purse were already heavy, and before long she received a gift of $6,000. Fearless faith, crowned with thanksgiving, brought it to pass. The world will tell you to wait until the blessing comes before you celebrate. But I tell you, if you wait, it will never come, for the celebration is what calls it. Thanksgiving is not an afterthought. It is the creative force itself. To walk in joy is to declare to heaven, "I trust you, I believe you, I know it is done." To murmur and complain is to declare to heaven, "I doubt you, I fear. I believe more in lack than in supply." Which confession do you think the subconscious obeys? Which decree do you think life will echo? Remember, joy is not a shallow emotion. It is a mighty vibration, and vibration is the language of spirit. Speak the code 4183 with thanksgiving, and you will feel the air change around you, as though unseen doors are swinging open, because they are. So I say to you, when you rise in the morning, give thanks before your feet touch the ground. When you pay a bill, give thanks that your supply is endless. When you sit at table, give thanks that your cup overflows. When you speak 4183, do not speak it as a beggar's chant, but as a king's command, sealed with thanksgiving and joy. Rejoice before you see the miracle, for that is the surest sign it is already on its way. And when it arrives, you will not be surprised, you will not gasp in disbelief. You will simply smile and say, "Of course, I knew it. I gave thanks long ago." That is the rhythm of joy, that is the crown of thanksgiving, and that is the sound that tells heaven and earth alike that you are walking in mastery. Now we come to a stumbling block that has tripped more souls than perhaps any other. For men and women will speak the word, they will even dare to believe it, but then they ruin the harvest by demanding to know how it will come, when it will come, through whom it will come. They dig up the seed to see if it has sprouted, they question, they prod, they calculate, and by doing so, they choke the very life they have planted. Hear me, you must release the how. The infinite has ways you know not of, weapons you know not of, channels you know not of, and the moment you try to map it, the moment you try to tell God how to work, you limit the Holy One of Israel and shut the very door you are asking him to open. The reasoning mind wants blueprints, guarantees, explanations, but faith wants none of these. Faith rests, rejoices, and expects, knowing that the invisible is at work and the form must appear in due season. Do you remember the child who asks for a toy at Christmas? He does not stay awake all night pacing the floor, wringing his hands, wondering what store his parents will buy it from, or what ship will carry it, or how many coins must be counted to pay for it. He asks and then he sleeps, confident that when the morning dawns, the gift will be there. That is faith, simple and fearless. Yet grown men and women, who call themselves wise, pray for health, pray for supply, pray for deliverance, and then lie awake all night worrying, calculating, and doubting. They speak the code and then strangle it with anxiety. They say, "But what if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if it comes too late?" And so they cancel their own decree. Beloved, you must become as a little child again. You must release the how. You must say, "Father, I thank you that it is already done. I do not need to know the channels. I do not need to see the machinery. I rest in the finished work, and I rejoice." I recall the story of a woman who needed $3,000 at once or face ruin. To her reasoning mind, it was impossible. There was no way, no visible source, no friend to help. But she held to the truth. God is my supply. There is always a supply for every demand. And at the last possible hour, a relative came unexpectedly to her door and offered her exactly the sum. She had not reasoned it out. She had not demanded a channel. She had not even thought of him. But infinite intelligence moved through a channel she had never dreamed of, and the supply came right on time. That is the power of releasing the how. Think of it like this. When you send a letter, you do not follow the mail carrier through every street. You do not demand to know the routes, the trucks, the planes that will carry it. You drop it in the box and you rest, knowing the system is faithful. So it is with your word. Speak it, release it, and rest. When you speak 4,183, do not look around nervously for signs. Do not measure by appearances. Do not chase after men and plead with them. Release it. Say, the law has received my decree, and it must return fulfilled. And go on in joy. The less you meddle, the faster it works. The more you rest, the swifter the supply. So I say to you tonight, speak the word, seal it with thanksgiving, and then let it go. Do not dictate the channels. Do not bind God to one door, for he has 1,000. Do not demand the plan, for his ways are ingenious, his methods are sure. Release the how, and you will marvel at the swiftness, the strangeness, the beauty of the ways in which the miracle arrives. That is the majesty of this law, and that is why I tell you, never meddle with the machinery, only declare the end, and the infinite will see to the means. Now, beloved, once you have spoken the word and released the how, the question that rises next is, then how shall I know what to do? How shall I know where to go? How shall I know which step is mine and which step is not? And here is the answer that silences all such questioning. You shall be led by the magic path of intuition. Intuition is the voice of God within you. It is the still small voice that whispers, "This is the way, walk ye in it." It is not reasoning, it is not calculation, it is not the chatter of fear, it is the divine directive, clear, certain, unerring. The reasoning mind argues, the intuition declares. The reasoning mind calculates probabilities, the intuition reveals certainties. And once you learn to follow it, once you train yourself to trust it, you will find that the way opens before you like a road lit by hidden lamps, every turn guided, every step prepared, every outcome secured. Too often people drown out this voice with noise and doubt. They pray for guidance, and then when the quiet nudge comes, they argue with it, they push it aside, they say, "That cannot be right, that does not make sense, that cannot possibly lead to supply." But the spirit is never mistaken. It will tell you to take a step that looks foolish to the reasoning mind. But if you obey, you will find the miracle waiting there. A woman once came to me with only $8 to her name. Logic told her to stay in the city, to find work, to scrape and struggle. But her hunch was to go home, though it meant spending almost all she had on fare. I told her, never disobey a hunch. She went, and through that step was connected with an old family friend who opened to her a channel of abundance beyond anything she could have imagined. She had obeyed the magic path of intuition, and the way had opened. Another man came to me, desperate, needing a large sum for his business, certain it was too late. The bank had refused him, the clock was against him, the deadline was upon him. But I told him, go back, speak the word. See yourself received. He obeyed the nudge, though logic mocked him, and when he returned to the bank at the last possible minute, the loan was granted with no resistance. The hunch led him to victory, when reason declared defeat. This is the law. Intuition is the straight line, the beeline, the path that cuts through the labyrinth of appearances and takes you directly to your demonstration. So I tell you, when you speak 4,183 and release the how, listen. Do not force, do not strain, simply listen. The nudge may be to call a friend, to walk a street, to open a book, to sit in stillness. Do not despise the day of small things. The Spirit speaks often in whispers, not in thunder. But if you obey, the small step leads to the great opening. The door swings where you least expected, the supply flows through channels you never saw, the healing rises in ways you never traced. This is the magic of the path. It is not your plan, it is God's, and His ways are sure. And perhaps you say, but how do I know if it is intuition or simply my own restless thought? The answer is simple. Intuition is calm, steady, certain, without argument. It does not plead, it declares. It does not agitate, it directs. It may be but a gentle urge, but it carries peace with it, and when you follow, peace expands. That is how you know the difference. Fear shouts, intuition whispers. Fear confuses, intuition clarifies. Fear binds, intuition frees. Follow peace, and you will never be misled. So let this be your practice. After you speak the code, after you release the how, grow still, listen, and obey the nudge that rises. Even if it seems foolish to the reasoning mind, follow it. For spirit cannot mislead. It is the lamp to your feet, the light to your path, the inner compass that points always to your good. That is the magic path of intuition, and if you walk it, you will never stumble, for the infinite walks before you, preparing the way. Now we arrive at one of the most marvelous revelations of divine law, and I want you to lean in and hear it with your whole heart, for it will release you from strain and striving forever if you grasp it. God has channels you know not of, and the supply that belongs to you may come from directions you could never imagine. Most men and women live hemmed in by their reasoning, fenced in by their limited vision, believing that their good must come through one source, one person, one job, one family connection, one narrow pathway. And because they cling so tightly to these human channels, they cut off the great river of supply that longs to rush in from 1,000 directions. They limit the Holy One of Israel by binding him to a single door, a single avenue, and when that door shuts, they cry that they are ruined. But I tell you, the Spirit is never limited. The infinite intelligence that created worlds has 1,000,000 ways to deliver your good, and if one door shuts, 10 more stand ready to swing open, if only you will release your grasp and let them. I recall a woman who came to me in despair, for she had no money for her rent, no channel in sight, and reason told her it was hopeless. Yet she held fast to the truth, declaring that supply was hers by divine right. And as she walked her dog one day, led down a street she would not ordinarily have chosen, her eyes fell upon a roll of bills lying in her path, and it was exactly the sum she required. She searched for an owner, but none could be found, for the money had been placed there by the hand of spirit, a channel beyond sight, to meet her need. Another time, a student of mine obeyed an inner nudge to call upon an old acquaintance, though she felt embarrassed, for she had nothing to offer. Yet that simple step opened the way to a gift of thousands, coming from a heart she had not thought to lean upon. Do you see how the unseen arranges itself when faith is spoken? The very streets may shift, the very hours may bend, to bring into your hand the good that belongs to you. This is why I tell you, never say, my good must come from here, from this person, from this business, from this bank. For the moment you say that, you tie the hands of spirit. Declare instead, my supply comes through endless channels, under grace, in perfect ways. The ways are myriad, the methods are sure, the law is unfailing, and then release it. Trust that the unseen is at work. You may find yourself led to a place you never thought to go, meeting a person you never thought to meet, receiving a letter you never expected to arrive. All of these are but the messengers of the unseen, the channels through which Spirit delights to show you that his arm is not shortened, that his river is not dry, that his methods are beyond all your reasoning. So when you speak 4,183, do not narrow your eyes and try to trace its path. Do not say, if it does not come through this one, I am lost. Do not cling to the visible and call it your source. God alone is your source, and the visible is but one of his countless channels. Rest in this truth, and you will be free. For when you release the demand that your good come in one way, you open yourself to the infinite ways in which it may rush to you. And then, when it does appear, you will marvel at the ingenuity of Spirit, at the beauty of his timing, at the strangeness of his methods, and you will say, truly, I could never have arranged this. This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in my eyes. Therefore, beloved, cease from trying to plot and scheme. Stop binding God to your tiny plans. Speak the word, release the how, follow the nudge of intuition, and then walk forward with eyes wide open, expecting miracles from channels you cannot yet see. For the unseen is more real than the seen, and when you trust it, you will find rivers in the desert, treasure in unexpected places, supply laid at your feet by hands you never touched. That is the majesty of channels beyond sight, and it is waiting to prove itself the moment you dare to believe. Now, beloved, let us turn to the walls that hem you in, the walls that tower before you, the walls that echo your fears and mock your faith, for each soul has his own Jericho. It may be the wall of lack, the wall of resentment, the wall of delay, the wall of sickness, the wall of injustice. But whatever form it takes, the law is the same. When the word is spoken with faith, the wall must fall flat. The children of Israel faced the city of Jericho, its gates shut tight, its walls so thick that reason declared them impregnable. Yet the command was not to batter the gates, not to scale the stones, not to fight with weapons, but to march in silence and then to shout at the appointed time. And when they shouted, the walls fell of their own accord. Do you see the law hidden in this story? It is not struggle that wins the day. It is the spoken word, aligned with divine command. The walls of your life do not yield to your pushing and striving. They yield to your shout of truth, to the vibration of faith, to the decree that declares, the walls of lack and delay now crumble away, and I enter my promised land under grace. I once gave this very declaration to a woman who felt hemmed in by endless postponements and disappointments. Everywhere she turned, doors were shut, promises broken, opportunities delayed, until she felt imprisoned by invisible walls. I told her, "Speak this aloud. The walls of lack and delay now crumble away, and I enter my promised land under grace." She did, and she pictured herself stepping over the rubble of fallen walls into a land flowing with good. Soon after, the thing she had waited for, the thing long postponed, came swiftly, as though nothing had ever stood in the way. The wall of delay had fallen flat. This is not chance, it is law. Yet many souls build their own walls by harboring resentment, envy, bitterness. A woman once envied a gift her friend had received. She spoke with jealousy, and she felt shut out, as though the wall of lack had risen before her. But I told her to affirm, "What God has done for others, He now does for me, and more." She obeyed, and soon received the very gift she had envied, and another besides. The wall of envy crumbled, and supply flowed in. That is why I tell you, resentment is mortar for the wall, envy is stone. Every bitter thought builds another layer between you and your good. But one word of truth, one decree of substitution, one shout of thanksgiving, and the wall must fall. So I ask you now, what is your Jericho? Is it the bank account that stares empty? Is it the body that aches with pain? Is it the door that refuses to open? Whatever it is, stand before it, not with fear, but with faith. Do not beat upon it with your fists of worry. Do not throw yourself against it in despair. Speak the word. Shout the code. Declare, 4,183, the walls of lack and delay now crumble away, and I enter my promised land under grace. See it in your mind's eye, hear the crash of the walls falling. See yourself stepping over the stones into freedom. Do this, and you will know the truth of the scripture that says, "By thy words thou shalt be justified." The wall is not stronger than the word, and when the walls fall, do not look back. Do not mourn over the rubble of old limitations. Walk straight into your promised land with joy, for the law of substitution will not leave you empty-handed. The wall falls only to reveal the treasure within. That is the way of spirit. So tonight, let your tongue be the trumpet, let your faith be the shout, let your decree be the vibration that shakes down every barrier, and you will see the walls of Jericho crumble at your feet. Now that the walls have fallen, you stand in the open field of your promised land, and it is here that the greatest truth of all must be revealed. Every life carries within it a divine design, a perfect pattern, an unalterable plan written in the mind of God before the foundation of the world. This design is not something you invent. It is not something you cobble together by trial and error. It is not something that depends upon luck or chance or the favor of men. It is a blueprint inscribed upon your superconscious mind, flawless, complete, eternal, awaiting only your recognition and obedience to unfold in visible form. Most people never find it because they are too busy sketching their own crooked plans, chasing after counterfeit desires, or bowing down to appearances. They live out lives of frustration because they are trying to fit themselves into garments never cut for them, trying to live in houses never built for them, trying to love partners never chosen for them by divine right. But I tell you, when you align with your divine design, struggle ends, fear dissolves, and life flows with a majesty and ease that no human effort could ever accomplish. I once spoke to a man who came to me discouraged and weary, saying he could find no place, no purpose, no satisfaction. He had tried one occupation after another, and though talented, nothing fit. He was as a square peg driven into round holes, bruised, battered, and unsatisfied. I told him, You are not here to force yourself into another man's mold. You are here to fulfill your own divine design, and that design is permanent and cannot be lost. Speak this word, Infinite Spirit. Open the way for the divine design of my life to manifest. Let the genius within me now be released. Let me find my place and fill it. He obeyed. And in a short time, he was led into a work that suited him perfectly, one that brought him joy, recognition, and prosperity. His genius, long buried under the rubble of wrong choices, was released, and his life blossomed. The plan had been there all along, waiting for his decree. Do not be afraid of losing by surrendering to the divine design, for the opposite is true. When you cling to your own limited plans, you cheat yourself of the abundance waiting in the eternal blueprint. But when you let go and declare, "Not my will but thine be done," the divine design of my life now takes shape in concrete experiences, leading to my heart's desire, then you release the law to bring you into your perfect path. And that path will not only satisfy your heart, it will bless others. For the divine design is never selfish, never narrow, but always expansive, always inclusive, always tuned to the harmony of the whole. Your true place is a blessing to you and to all. Think of it this way. Every acorn holds the design of the oak tree. It cannot become a pine, it cannot become a willow, it cannot become a rosebush. Its destiny is the oak, strong, tall, fruitful, sheltering. And if it tried to twist itself into another form, it would fail. But if it simply yields to the design within, the oak unfolds naturally, inevitably, gloriously. So it is with you. Within you is the acorn of the divine idea, the seed of your perfect work, perfect love, perfect expression. Stop straining to be what you are not. Stop chasing another man's dream. Yield to your own design, and the oak of your life will rise strong and secure. So when you speak 4,183, understand that it is not only a code to break walls, it is a summons to your divine design. It says to the subconscious, erase the false sketches, clear away the counterfeits, bring forth the true. And when you live in this design, life ceases to be a battle and becomes instead a glorious unfolding, a revelation of what was always meant to be. Opportunities will meet you without struggle, people will appear at the right time, doors will open without effort, and you will know that you are at last walking in your true path. This is the joy of the divine design, and once you taste it, you will never again be content with anything less. And now, beloved, we come to the mystery of the forbidden, that word which the world hurls like a warning, that word which has kept countless souls timid, hesitant, afraid to touch the treasures that stand waiting for them in the storehouse of spirit. The world stamps forbidden upon anything it does not understand, anything it cannot control, anything that cannot be measured with yardsticks and balanced on ledgers. But spirit hides its greatest treasures in what the world calls forbidden, not to withhold them, but to protect them from the profane, and to test the faith of those who truly hunger and thirst after righteousness. Do you not remember how the prophets spoke in parables, how the mystics veiled their wisdom in riddles, how the Master himself declared, "To you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given"? The forbidden is not the denied. The forbidden is the hidden, concealed until the faithful dare to believe, until the fearless dare to speak, until the obedient dare to act. Think of Ali Baba in the old tale, standing before the sealed mountain, its treasures locked away, invisible to the reasoning eye. The door did not yield to force, it did not yield to toil, it did not yield to struggle. But at the sound of the word, at the decree, "Open Sesame," the stones rolled back and the hidden storehouse was revealed. That is no mere children's story, it is a parable of truth. The code is the word, the decree is the key, and the treasure is your own good, long concealed by walls of doubt and fear. The world calls it forbidden, but to the faithful it is commanded, open. So when I tell you that 4,183 is a forbidden code, I do not mean it is dangerous. I do not mean it is evil. I mean it is hidden from the careless, withheld from the doubting, sealed against the fearful, but ready to yield itself to the fearless word of faith. I once counseled a woman who trembled at the thought of affirmations, saying, "Is it not wrong to command God? Is it not forbidden to declare such things?" I told her, "You are not commanding God, you are commanding the law, and the law is God in action. You are not taking what is not yours, you are claiming what has been yours all along by divine right." She dared to speak the word. Though her lips shook, and the very condition that had oppressed her for years dissolved in days. The forbidden became the permitted, the hidden became the revealed, the concealed blessing burst forth. So I ask you now, will you live bowed under the world's label of forbidden, or will you rise and live beyond it? Will you remain timid before the locked door, or will you speak the word that rolls the stones away? For let me tell you, beloved, there is no power in the universe that can keep from you that which belongs to you by divine right. There is no wall that can stand before your decree. There is no locked gate that cannot be opened by the vibration of your words spoken in faith. The world may mock, the world may scorn, the world may call it forbidden, but the world is not your judge. The law of spirit is your judge, and the law declares, all that the Father hath is thine. Therefore, when you speak 4,183, know that you are living beyond the forbidden. You are moving past the fear of appearances, past the warnings of unbelief, past the narrow judgment of men, and you are standing in the liberty of the sons of God. To the fearful, the code remains a riddle. To the faithful, it becomes the key. To the world, it is forbidden. To you, it is the open sesame. And once the treasure is revealed, once the blessing floods in, you will never again tremble at the world's prohibitions. You will know that nothing is truly forbidden to the soul that lives in divine alignment, nothing withheld from the one who dares to speak the word with authority. For to live beyond the forbidden is to live in freedom, and freedom is your birthright. And now, beloved, we stand at the end of this teaching. And yet, it is not an ending at all. It is a beginning. It is the opening of a new chapter in your life. It is the midnight gate swinging wide before you. You have walked with me through the mysteries of the code. You have seen why numbers and spirit are alive. You have seen why midnight is the appointed hour. You have learned that fear is inverted faith and must be replaced by truth. You have seen how substitution takes away the counterfeit and delivers the true. You have felt the vibration of the code striking chords in the unseen. You have dug your ditches in faith. You have smashed your old records. You have lifted your eyes to the fourth dimension. You have crowned it all with joy and thanksgiving. You have released the how and chosen instead to obey the hunch. You have walked the magic path of intuition and discovered channels beyond sight. You have shouted down the walls of Jericho, stepped into the promised land of your divine design, and you have dared to live beyond the forbidden into the liberty of spirit. And now the only thing left is to speak the code itself, not as one who is trying, not as one who is begging, not as one who is straining, but as one who knows, as one who commands, as one who stands in dominion. So let us say it together, with fearless joy, 4,183. Speak it aloud even now. Let it roll from your tongue. Let it vibrate through your body. Let it echo through your mind. Let it etch itself upon the phonograph of your subconscious. Let it sing itself into the unseen. Say with me, 4,183 by divine right, under grace, in perfect ways, my miracle is here. Do you feel the power of it? Do you feel the atmosphere shifting as you declare it? That is the law responding to your decree. That is the infinite intelligence rising to meet your faith. That is the unseen bending itself to your spoken word. And I tell you, not one syllable spoken in faith can ever fall to the ground. The word has gone forth, and it cannot return void. It must accomplish that which you please. It must prosper in the thing whereto you send it. And here is my challenge to you. Do not let this night pass without speaking it. Do not close your eyes in fear. Do not let the day die with anxiety on your lips. Before midnight strikes, speak the code. Say it with faith. Say it with thanksgiving. Say it as a decree, not a request. Say it until you feel the joy of possession flood your heart, until you feel the calm of assurance settle upon you. And then go to your rest, not with worry but with peace, not with fear but with praise, knowing that the law has received your word and the answer is already moving toward you. And when the miracle comes, and it will, do not forget this night, do not forget this word. Do not forget that life is not a battle but a game, and you win not by struggle but by alignment with divine law. Share it, live it, repeat it, and you will never again be a beggar at life's door. You will walk as a king in your kingdom, a queen in your dominion, a child of God in your inheritance. And now, I leave you with this. Speak with me once more. 4,183, my miracle is here. Seal it in your heart, write it upon your soul. Let it be the song of your midnight and the anthem of your dawn. And when the walls fall, when the doors open, when the supply floods in, remember that it was not by chance, not by struggle, not by reasoning, but by the words spoken in faith. And if you are ready to go deeper, I invite you to follow me into the next revelation, where I will unveil a single phrase, short and simple, that cancels years of fear in seconds. It is a phrase men and women use every day without knowing its power, and when you learn to wield it rightly, no enemy can stand before you. Do not miss it, for it may be the most liberating truth you have ever heard. Click here and walk with me into that freedom. For now, rejoice, give thanks, and speak the word, for the game is yours to win, and the victory is already sealed.